How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the back-end information as to how I have built out my security lab. And if you haven't seen this, you might have seen it once or twice in the past. But basically, this is what I've got going on. I've got 4 ASAs, and I've got 4 routers. So the idea here is to be able to test out a bunch of different configurations with, a variety of different solutions. And so as we go through, one of the things that I get a lot of emails or a lot of social media messages on, how do you set it up? How do you get the communication to work? Things like that. So there's going to be a couple things that I do. I actually want to just double check on a couple things really quick with you guys since I've got you here right now. I'm going to check on ASA 2. Actually, I can just do it this way. Yeah, ROM, Cisco. Show IP interface brief. Show interface IP brief. Okay, so alright, that works out quite well. Actually, I got to bootstrap the router for the most part. So what we're going to be doing as we go through, I'm actually going to sit there and take a little bit of a leisurely stroll. Go ahead and pull that one away as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you some of the back-end stuff so that you know what has to be done in ESXi. So there's a couple of things that need to be understood. So let's go ahead and pull up my ESXi host, and just to put it into context so everybody understands what's going on. I've got a lot of virtual machines deployed on this server. Actually, I think it's a little too much. I'm actually running it to there's some thrashing in the CPU. Like for instance, I'll give you an example of, like I've got Identity Services Engine deployed, and one of the things that ends up happening with ICE is it's when I go to join ICE to Active Directory because I have a domain controller deployed, it just sits there and hangs. So I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with operationally. So eventually, a lot of these routers, I'm going to turn them off and scale this guy way back and stuff like that. And once I get a little further along, but I've got a bunch of VMs running to be able to support this. So what I've done, and I've got a lot of vSwitches also. So just bear with me. When I say I have a lot of vSwitches, I have currently 47 of them, and depending on what I've got going on, we'll determine some stuff. And I've got some customer stuff in here for some of the customers I'm working on solutions for that I test out options and stuff like that. But what you want to be paying attention to is things like this. Let me go find it real quick. It's going to be the security portion of things. So take a look at this, for example, like this vSwitch 31 here. You might have to go full screen on YouTube in order to see this. I'm not sure if I can even do the magnifying glass. Haha, I can. So you take an example of vSwitch 31. So what you do is you create a vSwitch. You go over here, you click on Add Networking. You go to you click on Virtual Machine. You click Next. Now it's taking a little bit of time. I'm not sure exactly why it's slow to respond. My other ESXi host is actually pretty snappy. This one here is relatively slow. So I think I've just got too much going on. So let's go ahead and click on Next. And the network label can be whatever you want it to be. But the network label is what you're going to use to act as basically as a VLAN name. Where the network label is just a label, you can specify the VLAN. Now there's 3 different options you have: none, all 4095, or a specific VLAN itself. Now, because a lot of these servers, and these like the Win 7.1, Win 7.2, I've got 8 Windows 7 virtual machines running. I've got a domain controller. I've got firepower management controller, Identity Services Engine. I have a web server that is currently off. Firepower threat defense. The web security appliance. I've got a lot of VMs running. I'm actually going to be turning a lot of stuff off because as I go through, I want to be focusing on learning an individual technology and then mapping it to something. So like I'll keep a couple of ASAs running. I'm actually going to size this server way back. So what I do is I come in here, I specify VLAN 0. And how you can tell that is if you bring this over here. I'm not sure if I can, I'm not going to be able to scroll. But if I go ahead and cancel, I scroll up here a little bit. You look, say for instance, you look right here where it says there's 10 virtual machines, which is, this one's called security, and it's all VLANs, all 4095. So basically the security port group turns into a trunk link. Now, it doesn't go anywhere, so to speak. It doesn't connect out to, there's no VNIC. There's no way for it to connect to the outside world. This is what they would call a host only via a vSwitch. So what it does is I connect CSR21, security router 1, security router 4, security router router 2 will have to get added. Now, matter of fact, while I'm sitting here doing this, let me go ahead and add 2 to it, edit settings, and then I'll go on adapter 1, and then high availability, I'll scroll down to security. And this is where that label comes into play. So the name of the vSwitch itself is where you pull this in. You do that, and I'll do security 3 real quick. And the purpose behind this is so that when it comes down to it, I am basically creating a broadcast domain that can be used for the communication between the devices. That's what I'm actually doing. So then you come in here and you've got Windows 7.1, for instance. Win 7.1, 2, 3, 4. I actually had to create one. If I bring this down, I actually had to create this guy right here, Security PC 2, and I had to create this one down here, Security PC 5. I don't think I've created that one. But what you do is in this one here, Security Router 1 connects to Security PC 1. So let's go ahead and explain the mapping behind that one. So if I come over here and I click on this guy right here, and this connects to Security PC 1. So on the Edit Settings tab, come over here, and I network adapter 2, which is gig 2 on a CSR 1000V. I click in here, and what I do is I map it to Security PC 1. So I know what mapping I'm going to be using in order to get the communication between router 1 and PC 1 to work. Then I go down here to Win 7 PC 1. I click on Edit Settings, and then I map the network adapter to Security PC 1. What that allows me to do is on R1, go ahead and do away with the magnifier for the moment. Go ahead and pull the topology back up. And what I do here on R1, you'll notice on R1 I have, there's no sub interface. This is on the main interface. And if you did not already know this, the main interface of a router is always going to be VLAN 0 or VLAN 1, which is not tagged by default on Cisco devices. So therefore it is actually it's an untagged VLAN, which VLAN 0 is the untagged VLAN in VMware. That's how I correlate it. So what that does, if I do a show ARP, I have a IP address in here for 192.168.1.10. If I ping 192.168.1.10, I get a response. Well, if I come over here to my ESXi host and I click on Win 7 PC 1, and I bring this guy over here, and now I have no internet access, but that doesn't matter because I can click out right here and go to local area connection, click on the details, and my IP address is 192.168.1.10. So here's what's cool about this. Okay, I can come over here and I can say ping 10.1.1.1, which 10.1.1.1 is router 1. I can ping it, which means I'm pinging the remote side. When I ping router 1, I'm pinging it on, bring this over so you guys can see, I'm pinging it right here. I'm pinging this IP. Now if I come back over here and I ping .100, .100 is ASA1. Okay? So what I'm going to do is on Security PC 1, I'm remoted, I'm on the VMware console. then there's a question, can you remote into those VMs as well? Yes, I can. If I was to add a VM NIC, or I'm sorry, a VNIC, and place that in the VM network default port group, I will be able to take my computer and I'll be able to remote in. I don't need to do that for what I'm doing. I just need a small, the console of this guy is more than enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go and type in 10.1.1.100. SSH is the connection. I'm going to call this ASA1. Click on Save. I'm going to go ahead and say Open. It says, yes, that's fine. I'm going to log in as Rob and Cisco. Boom, I am now on ASA1. So I've SSH from Security PC1 here to ASA1. Now ASA1 connects to R1 through the Security VM Network port group. Or I'm sorry, the Security port group that I created. It's a virtual machine port group, which means virtual machine, virtual NICs get placed in this port group, and they're able to communicate with each other. One of the extremely important things, I'm going to point this is why I'm shooting this video, because I get a lot of calls on this. Go ahead and find the security one here real quick. They usually do them in, there it is right here. If I go to properties, I go to, you'll see it right here, it says promiscuous mode is set to accept. So on the vSwitch itself, there's 120 ports. If I click on edit, I go to security, this needs to be set to accept. If this is not set to accept, then what will end up happening is the virtual machine to virtual machine communication. So in this particular case here, in security, ASA1 will not be able to talk to R1. And that's basically the problem that we will have. Now, you'll see that security R1 is also in the security PC1 virtual machine port group. And because of the way that I've got it mapped, I've got gig 2 of R1 in that port group. I've got Win7.1, its VNIC in that port group as well, and here I've also got promiscuous mode set to accept, except for the difference between the two, between this port group here and this port group right here, is this port group up here, the security one, is acting like a trunk link so that it's passing .1Q tags. This one down here is not, because a Windows 7 computer is not going to pay attention by default to a .1Q tag. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add Security PC2 and Security PC5. Not sure if I already have those, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I'm going to go to networking and I'm going to scroll down. So I have Security PC 4, or I've got 1, 4, 3, 6, and 7. So I need to add 2 and 5. Not a big deal. Piece of cake. So add networking. Actually, a lot of these I can get rid of. Like for instance, I can come in here and I'll have to move a lot of these. The one thing to keep in the back of your mind as you're working with this stuff is if there is a VNIC of a device in the port group, you cannot delete the port group. So like for instance, if I want to delete a lot of these port groups, let's delete some of these guys because I'm not using them. So let's go ahead and delete vSwitch 2. We're going to go ahead and click on remove, and yes. And then we're going to come down, and there's another question. Can you delete port groups that are attached to a vSwitch? Yes, you can. If there's nothing in the port group itself, you can delete the port group. So we're going to come in here, and 29. There's nothing in there. Go ahead and delete it. It takes a couple seconds, but it can be done. Is there a recommendation of how many port groups to max out on? There really isn't. I just was adding stuff as I was going along, but this is how you would delete a few. You just click on remove, go yes, and delete it. It's very, very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and let's delete a couple more. I can't delete this one right here because there's actually a VM NIC that actually goes to my storage. So I'm going to delete a couple more just because of the fact that since I'm already working on it. And again, it is a little slow, so I'm keeping that in the back of my mind. There's another question. When are you going to be getting to the service provider courses for Rikers Island? I will be getting to those in the very near future. At the very end of this video, I'm going to take you over to Rikers Island, and I will show you where I'm at with something. But at this point in time, it's a work in progress. So I'm going to go after this video is done. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of these vSwitches out. I don't need to have 30 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Networking. Next. I'm hoping that this will speed the process up on this server. Click on Next, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Security PC2, which I believe is what they call it. PC2. Yes, that is what they call it. And the VLAN ID is optional. I'm going to leave that to none. Click Next and Finish. Now what's going to happen is that's going to get placed at the very, very bottom, which means I have to go all the way down to here. Click on Properties. I'm going to click on Edit, Security, and then Accept. Click on OK. Yes, that's fine, and close. I'm going to do one more for PC5. And sec-PC5. Next. There we go. Bring this guy down. Properties, Edit, Security, and Accept. Now that I've done that, I can go over to I can go over to R3 in our configuration here. Security R3, and on this guy here I can go to Edit Settings, and on Gig 2 I can go here and type in Security PC2, and I think that was PC2. Yes, Security PC2. Click on OK, and then I can click on Win72. Click on the Edit Settings tab here. Click on Network Adapter. Go down to Security, or go up to Security PC2, and voila. That's really all there really is to it. I've done that now, and I can continue moving forward. Now I go back to the topology. Now ASA2 connects to PC5 directly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to come in here, and actually I need to make a third one for server 1, which is going to be like a domain controller. I'll take care of that one at a later date. But I need to put ASA2 Gig 01 into Security PC5. So what I'll do is I'll bring this guy back up, and on ASA2 on Edit Settings, get this guy here. Let me just double check that this is correctly configured here. So on ASA2, I'm going to go here to, I think it was Gig 1. Yeah, Gig 1. I'm going to do a show interface Gig 0/1. And the last 4 is BECB. And its adapter 3 is BECB. So once I map it and I have that correlated, I can come down here at PC5, click on OK. And then I'll go to Security Win75, Edit Settings, and then I'll move this to Security PC5, like that. And that's really all there really is to it. So now that I've done that, I can go ahead and, yeah, you're not seeing anything I don't want you to see. This is Identity Services Engine in the background. I'm actually having some issues getting it to work. For instance, I won't say flakes out, but it just hangs on certain things. So like here I'm trying to configure an external identity source. Like for instance, I want to allow ICE to be able to communicate with Radius, and it's just not working, and I'm not sure why. This is 2.3. I was actually going to fall back and downgrade to 2.2. See if it makes me... Yeah, it allows me to log in. It does work, but actually configuring it gets a little shady. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through setting up at least bootstrapping at this point ASA. So what I'm going to do is pull this topology, this guy up over here, bring this guy over, and I'm going to go ahead and show interface IP brief. And what I'm going to have to do is on gig 0/0 show run interface gig 0/0. This guy is already set up, but this was a different lab, so I'm going to type in as default. That doesn't support that. So interface gig 0/0, no IP address, no name if outside. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll type in interface gig 0/0. It's no shut already, so I'm okay with that. But I'm going to type in interface gig 0/0.22. There's no concept of encapsulation on an ASA, but I will say VLAN 22. I'll type in IP address of 22.0.0.200 and a /24 mask. Now that I've done that, I need to give it a name if of outside, which is fine, that does the job. I'm going to go over to do 24, same concept, 24, and then I just have to type in the IP address that applies to that. So I'll just come in here and type in 10.2.4.200, name if is inside, and I'll put in here that this other one, gig 0/1, is a little bit different. And there's a reason why it's different. It's because it's the main interface. I will have to come in here and type in name if is, we'll say, I'm gonna say other inside, and the IP address of this guy here is going to be 192.168.5.200/24. And the reason why I'm doing this, and you'll notice that this is the other inside, the security level gets set to 0. I'm actually going to type in security level of 100, which will allow that to communicate. And I'm also going to come in here and type in the DHCPD. The address for this guy is going to be, we're going to specify 192.168.5.10 through 192, is it dash 20, and other side, and hit the enter key. End address less than start address. Beg your pardon? We had to type the whole thing in. 192.168.1.5.20. There we go. And then I come in down here and type in DHCPD enable, and I type in other outside. So now that it does that, if I go back over to security PC5, it's not currently pulled up at the moment. I don't think. Yeah, it's not currently pulled up. So I'll pull up this guy. I'll go to the open console, and I'll log in. And what will end up happening is, because it's running DHCP on the ASA, go ahead and close that out. Right click here, open network and sharing, click on here, details. It doesn't have an IP address currently, but I'll go to properties here, and I'll say OK. OK. And I will disable the adapter. Usually I do this just for a hard reset. Change adapter settings back to enable. And then I should get a pop-up on this port here in just a second that it's a home network, it's getting an IP address, all that good stuff that goes along with that. And then that'll be basically the security levels. And if you didn't already know this, you'll notice on the ASA that if you come down here, you do a show name if, that the security level is set, and it goes in a range of 0 to 100. And so what ends up happening is, if the name if it specifies anything other than inside, it gives it a security level of 0. So what's going to happen by default is any traffic that's coming from a high numerical value security level, 100 down to 10, that's going to work. It's like you're going from the 100th floor. Well, there's really no good way of explaining this other than to say that when you're at a higher security level, you're technically more secure. If you're at a lower security level, you're less secure. Now, you can dictate the security level. You can give everything, all your interfaces 0. You can give all your interfaces 100. It's not designed to do that. And this is one of those type of situations where I wonder if we got an IP address now. I was actually watching it. Details. Okay, it still hasn't got an IP, and I'm not sure exactly why. I wonder if I did. Is there anything else on here that I'm missing? DHCP D. Let's see. Address. 192.168.5.10 to 192.168.5.20. Other side. Show run DHCP D. Okay, it's definitely enabled. Oh, hold on. I bet you any money. I think I know what the problem is. Show interface IP brief. Ta-da! Your wonderful instructor forgot to no-shut an interface. So we're going to type in interface gig 0/1 and no-shut the interface. And as soon as the interface comes up, show interface IP brief. Interface is up. And what will end up happening is as soon as DHCP goes through and show DHCP D binding, usually takes a couple seconds for it to actually kick in. But what I'll do is I will try to speed the process up here a little bit. Disable the connection, because I am extremely impatient when it comes to these things. I want it to happen like yesterday. Go ahead and pull this back up. I knew something was up because I haven't there we go. Home network, and then we're going to let it do its thing. I'm going to Control 8 out of that, hit the up arrow, and now we have a binding. So that's basically how you set up DHCP and ASA. It's actually really easy. We let it do its thing here on the Windows PC, so we know it's communicating. We come in here and we go to CMD. We type in ping or ipconfig just to make sure that I'm not messing with you guys. 192.168.5.10, and on the ASA it says 192.168.5.10. I ping 192. Ping 192.168.5.200. I'm seeing pings coming in, which is a really good sign. So that proves that I'm getting an IP address dynamically from ASA2. So I'm going to go ahead and put that away so we know there's communication between those two guys. Let's go ahead and pull up our topology again and finish up our config on ASA2. So what I do now is, because of the numerical value that gets applied to the security level. If you're at a high level and you want to go to a low level, that is by default allowed, right? So if I want to go between the inside interface and the outside interface, which in this case here, gig 0/0.24, the one connecting to router 4, is the inside. Gig 0/0.22 is the outside. Traffic going from R4 to the internet is permitted. The return traffic for that, let's say it's a web connection or what have you, the web connection to something, that would be permitted as long as there's an existing state table. So let me come down here and do a show route, and I don't have a default route yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and type in route outside and 0/0 and type in 22.0.0.2. I'll do that. And actually I've got to come in here and get router 2 up and running real quick. Config T host name is R2, interface gig 1 no shut, interface gig 1.22 encapsulation.1q. Big T interface gig 1.22 encap.1q22 IP address of 22.0.0.2/24. So by me doing this, it gives it an IP address, which means that the ASA has a legit route, show route. I do have a default route now. So that means when R4 or when security PC5, let's try him. Actually, that's actually a really good test. On security PC5, do I already have it open? I sure do, right there. Go ahead, minimize this guy. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to ping, close, ping 22.0.0.2. Now let's just let it sit there and think about it. The problem that we're going to have is R2 doesn't have a way of getting back to ASA2. That's fine. That doesn't make much of a difference. But what I really want to Control C on that. Where this comes into play is if we went to R2 and I went in here and I typed in IP route, let's just say for the instance of 192.168.0.0/16 points to 22.0.0.200. Okay, so let's just assume that I have a static route, show IP route, back to our ASA2. Okay, if I did that ping again, that should work once it ARPs for it. Or not. Normally I'm a dynamic routing kind of guy, so I might actually have to, let's see, how far can I get to it? I didn't test this piece out yet, so it's interesting. Oh, Control C. Let's do a trace route to 192.168.5.200. Directly connected to it. Let's say I do a trace route to, well actually, let's do a route print. Where do I go if I don't know what to do with it? I send it to ASA2. Okay, perfect. Gets to ASA2. That actually is a really good example. And we'll do this. We'll do a show name if. I should be able to take any traffic that's coming in from the other side and send it out to the internet, regardless of where it's coming from. So there's that. I'm not going to put a whole lot of time and effort into this because I do have other videos that I want to do to show you how this would work. But the idea here is let's do another test that I know is going to work. Let me see if I can ping let's see if I can let R5 ping R4. Is that going to work? By default, do you think that's going to work? Ping 10.2.4.4. And I am going to say -T. It's not going to work out of the gate. I actually have to come in here and get that configured real quick, which I will do real quick. Host name is R4, interface gig 1, no shut, interface gig 1.24, encap.1q24, IP address of 10.2.4.4/24. Okay, so the gig interface is up, show IP interface brief, squared there. So now I go back to, it's still timing out on the ping. And it's not, even with me having configured R4, it's still not going to work. And the reason why it's not going to work is on the ASA, there is this same security level drop. So even though the two interfaces are in the same security level, it's actually not going to work. So what I have to type in is same security level, same security traffic permit, and I have to say inter interface and permit intra interface. Okay. And now, but the problem I'm going to have now is R4 doesn't know how to get back to ASA2. So on R4, I'm just going to come in here and do a IP route of 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0 to 10.2.4.200, and there it goes. So now the ping is working because now there's a route back to the destination. And that was just to prove to you that it does work and it's operational. So right now, as it sits, if I was to go up here and type in line VTY 0 space 4 and type in login password is Cisco, exit out, and if I would type in enable password is Cisco, and then drop out of here and then over here to the control panel and go to the control panel and go to programs, turn Windows features on or off, and turn the telnet client on in the installed programs. Because currently I don't have PuTTY. Now the cool thing about the way that I got this set up is if I wanted to give any one of my VMs internet access, all I would literally have to do is go in and change the port group that it belongs to from where it's at to VM network, and it would have instant internet access. So then I could download like pretty much whatever I want and stream video to it or what have you. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to turn Windows Telnet client on. Click on OK. Give that a second to install. And because I can reach it via ping, which means I have layer 3 reachability, I'm going to go ahead and take that to the next level. Oh, you know what? I know why it didn't work with the default route, because there's actually that's my fault. I don't know if I'm inspecting ICMP on ASA2 for one. We do a show run policy map. I am not inspecting ICMP. So that's one of the problems. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Go to global config, inspect ICMP, and then I'm going to go back to this guy. I'm going to go ahead and add another one, but this time I'm going to say ping 22.0.0.2. Okay, there it goes. So now it's inspecting ping. So it wasn't because my configuration was wrong. It was just missing. It wasn't able to do what I wanted it to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to telnet to 10.2.4.4. I'm going to type in Cisco, enable Cisco. And if I go over to router 4, because I really want you guys to believe that I'm actually doing this. Show users. I have a active connection on R4 via telnet. And that's what I really want you guys to see, is this traffic is all going through. If we go to ASA2, we do show connections. Show connections. I have active connections going through this firewall. I have ICMP from other inside on this port. I have an active ping coming from PC5 to the inside interface. I also have a TCP connection from the other inside from PC5 to the inside interface of ASA2 on port 23, so it's a telnet connection. And I have a couple of really important flags that you guys should know about. I have the UIOB. Now if we do a show route, there's some things that need to be understood about these flags. So I have UIOB. U stands for, there's a per user static route. I have the, actually I believe this is where I wanted it to be. No, I'm sorry, this is incorrect. If I do show connections detail. Yes, here it is. This is what I'm looking for. So I have UIOB, which means U is up. I have a capital I. Capital I stands for inbound data. Capital O stands for outbound data. And capital B stands for initial SYN from outside, which means that I'm receiving traffic back in when I sent it out. So I sent the SYN out, I received an ACK back, and so the initial SYN from the outside, so I have bidirectional communication. So I can exit out of that, and that's working. So what this tells me is that as of right now, all of my connectivity that I've tried to do so far is 100% spot on. So this is all the real basic stuff for ASA. I'm not really doing anything that's super complicated or what have you. But one of the things that I wanted you guys to see was this is operationally working. Now, this is relatively basic stuff for the most part, but it's one of those things where you get better at it the more often you play with it, and I've been playing a lot with ASA lately. I'm currently going through CCNP security and spending a lot of time with AnyConnect and site-to-site VPN. I'll be doing some videos on that, but I'm actually looking at if you were to go, I'm trying to think here of how I would explain the order to go through ASA that would make, at least what makes logical sense to me when it comes to setting things up. So like, let me take you to the documentation page real quick, because I think this will make life much simpler to understand long term. So what I will do is pull the documentation page up. So bring this over. If you go to security and you go firewalls, and you click on ASA, and you go ASA 5500X, I don't really care about which version of code. I just want to talk about the configuration guides. Configuration guides, go to the next tab. So you bring this guy up and you come down here. So you have the 9.8 code. And this is the particular version of code that I'm working with on ASA. You have the general operations, you have firewall, and you have VPN. So if I expand all three of these out, book 1 covers a lot of the how do you operate the device. So getting started with it, setting up high availability, how do you do that? Basically what I'm doing is I am focusing on getting started in interfaces, basic routing, nothing very complicated at this point in time. The next one would be your firewall. This is where you're going to get into the modular policy framework. This is where you're going to get into NAT, doing the advanced application inspection, stuff like that. I'm going through this portion of it right here, and so as soon as I feel comfortable enough, I'll go ahead and kick out a couple videos on how this stuff works. And then third, but definitely not least, you have VPN. Now, the thing about VPN is it's actually one of the smaller of the 3 books, because you've got site-to-site client and client lists. So I've done AnyConnect a bunch of times already. I've done site-to-site. I'm still working on the client list for doing like the port forwarding and the smart tunnels and some other advanced things. But if you're looking for recommendations in order to go through firewall, this would be the first place to go. Once I've gone completely through ASA, then I will focus on going through, and I'm not sure if I'm going to fall back to iOS, or if I'm going to dig into Firepower, or if I'm going to dig into ICE, or ACS. I'm really not sure which direction I'm going to go with. I'm going to install and get working ICE 2.2 and see if I have any better results with the user interface than what I'm having with ICE currently. I do have Firepower up and running, but I think I had to reinstall it because I think I goofed up on the install, so I'm going to actually blow that away. So there's some of the different things that I'm looking at. I just downloaded ACS 5.3. It's a little bit dated, but it's more or less, some of the stuff that I'm looking at when it comes to just learning the technology. So that's where I would go. There is the option for the ASDM. It's not bad for some things, but I'm a CLI guy, so that's usually where I like to focus my time and efforts. But that's pretty much where it sits. So yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. Now there is one other thing that I wanted you guys to see, and the reason why I want to show you guys is because I think it's something that I actually would like some feedback. And the reason I'm putting this at the end of the video is because if you're still watching the video at this point in time, I would like to know your take on the situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over my training site, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in, click on my account, and I'm going to log in, via me. So I have given myself full access to the site, obviously, because I do development. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that I'm working on. So here at this portion of it, you have down at the bottom, you've got a bunch of different files that you can click on to download. I'm going to click on my account. If you're a paid subscriber, you currently won't have access to this particular option, but this is what I'm working on. If you click on workbooks here, if you've paid for the workbook, this is where you would download your workbooks, right? I've tried to make it very easy to follow. What I'm actually working on now is a online workbook, and the reason why I'm looking at an online workbook versus a downloadable workbook is if there's any errata, like I need to update something, I was incorrect on something, or I need to add some information to something. At least I can go to the web page of it, I can update the config or update the information, post it, and it's automatically updated. You don't have to go log in, download the new version, what have you. So if you click on here, you'll be brought to this page, and literally this is going to be like the landing page. So you'd be able to go through. And now, granted, this is just in development, so you will not have access to this. I'd like some feedback as to whether you guys think this would be kind of cool or not. You click on this link right here, it takes you to the actual task. So this is the CCNP T-shoot topology. So you can look at it, and I gave you a diagram that as you're looking here, you can look at it and do what you got to do. So now here you have a task to fix an issue, and I've proved to you that it's not working. Like, okay, so how would you go about doing this? So you click on the task solution, you're redirected to the solutions page, and then you come in here, and then I prove to you again that it's not working. So I take what you just saw, and then now I walk you through what I would do to try to troubleshoot the problem. And I walk you through and I break it down in a situation kind of like this. And then you get done. Now, what I'm going to be doing, and I haven't done it yet, is I'm going to be adding some buttons at the bottom and some buttons at the top. The buttons at the top and the bottom on the left and the right side, one will be previous lab and the other one will be next lab, and that will redirect you back to this page here, so you can click on the next one. Or actually, I'm going to take it to this page right here, so it's actually going to move you to the next one. So it's going to take you to whatever the next lab might be, obviously. So the idea here is you would start from the top and work your way down the screen until you get to where you got to go, and that's going to be how you would log in and do your troubleshooting. I'm planning on doing this for every course moving forward. I'm just curious to see what you guys think, if that's a good idea, if you like what you got, like what you're seeing. I don't know yet if I'm going to stop moving forward with a downloadable PDF. I know there's a lot of people out there that like the downloadable PDF. The people that have bought it have given me good feedback on it. So I'm probably going to keep it in the interim, just in case somebody wants to read it offline. And if that's the case, so be it. You can read it offline. I'm still working on how much this is going to cost to access the workbook. But I will think of something. If you already, once this goes live, if you've already purchased the downloadable workbook, and I will give you access to any of the online workbooks that mirror what you've already purchased. So if you've downloaded CCNP Route, when I do the CCNP Route online workbook, you will automatically have access to that. So that's my way of saying, well, why pay twice? I'll just give you access to it because you've already paid for it. So there's that. Let me know in the comments below if you think this is a good idea, if you like what you see. Again, I'm going to be putting out content on a pretty regular basis. It's not going to be like just brain dumps of information, because obviously I want to do a CCNA, CCNP, and CCI security course. But it's going to be focused, obviously. So I'm working on some things on the back end to make this stuff unique and interesting. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and we will catch you guys next time in the next video. Thanks for showing up, guys.